Hi, 5th graders. Welcome to Lesson 3.11, Add and Subtract Money. The essential question for this lesson is, how can the strategy Make a Table help you organize and keep track of your bank account balance? Now, go ahead and open up in your Go Math workbooks to Lesson 3.11, found on page 73, and let's get started. Now, let's take a look at question number 1. As you can see, question number 1 has already been completed for us, but it's a good model for us as to how to use the information presented in our table to help us answer the question. So we're going to go ahead and read question number 1, and the question says, Dorian and Jack decided to go bowling. They each need to rent shoes in one lane, and Jack is a member. If Jack pays for both of them with $20, what change should he receive? So what I know is this. I know that the question I'm trying to answer is, what change should he receive? And what I know is, that's the change if he pays with the $20 bill. Now, what I know also is this. They each need to rent shoes. So they're going to each rent shoes, and they also have to rent one lane. And we know that Jack is a member. So my first step is going to be to calculate the total cost. So I'm going to add the amounts together, the costs together. So if they're each going to rent shoes, what I know is this. I know that one, Dorian, is not a member, so the shoe rental for him is going to be $3.95. So that's going to be added into my total cost down here. So that's where the $3.95 comes from. Now I also know that Jack is a member. So for Jack to rent shoes, it's going to cost $2.95. So when I'm calculating my cost, here is the $2.95 that represents Jack's shoe rental. Now we also know that they're renting one lane. And because Jack is a member, the member's cost to rent a lane is going to be $7.50. So that's where the $7.50 comes from. Now, to calculate the cost, we're now going to add the $7.50, which is the member's cost for the lane rental. We're going to add the $3.95, which is the non-member, the regular cost of shoe rental. And we're also going to add the $2.95, which is the member's cost for shoe rental. So when we add those numbers together, the sum turns out to be $14.40. However, that's not the answer to our question because once again, the question was, what change should he receive if he pays with a $20 bill? So our last step is going to be to calculate the change. So we're going to take the $20, which is the bill that he paid with, and from that we're going to take away or subtract the total cost. So it's $20 minus the $14.40. And when we subtract those two numbers, we're left with $5.60, which is the change that he's going to receive. And we've used the information from our table to help us come up with our answer. Now, let's take a look at question number 3. Question 3 says, Warren paid $23.85 and received no change. He is a member and rented 2 lanes. How many pairs of shoes did he rent? So what I know is this. The question being asked, or the question that we have to answer is, how many pairs of shoes did he rent? Now I also know that Warren paid $23.85 and that he received no change back. I also know that he is a member and that he rented 2 lanes. So what I'm going to do first is this. I'm going to calculate the cost of that 2-lane rental knowing that Warren is a member. So I'm going to go up to the lane rental and I'm going to find the section that deals with the member's cost, which is $7.50. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and calculate the cost of the lane rental by adding $7.50 2 times. So I'm going to take my $7.50 and I'm going to add to that $7.50. And that's going to represent the 2 lanes that Warren rented. Now, let's go ahead and work this decimal addition. We're going to start in the hundredths place, and I know that if I have 0 plus 0, I know that I'm still going to have a 0 here in the hundredths place. So I'm going to write the 0 down. Now we're going to focus on the numbers in the tenths place. And I know that 5 plus 5 is going to take me to a 10. So I'm going to write a 0 down in the tens place, and I'm going to regroup the 1. Now we're going to focus on the numbers in the ones place. I know that 7 plus 7 is going to give me 14, plus that regrouped 1 is going to take me to 15. Now my last step here is to place the decimal, and I place it in between the ones and the tens place. So what I know is, in order for Warren to rent the 2 lanes, it cost $15. Now, I also know, once again based on the problem, that Warren paid $23.85. So my next step is going to be this. I'm now going to take my $23.85, and from that I'm going to subtract the $15, which was how much it cost to rent the 2 lanes. So I'm going to go ahead and begin with our next step, and I'm going to write down the $23.85, and from that, once again, I'm going to subtract the $15, which was the cost of the 2 lane rentals. Now, let's go ahead and work this decimal subtraction. I'm going to start in the hundredths place, and I know that 5 minus 0 is going to leave me with 5. Now we're going to work on the numbers in the tenths place, and I know that 8 minus 0 is going to leave me with an 8 in the tenths place. Now we're going to focus on the numbers in the ones place. Well, I can't take 5 away from 3, so I'm going to have to regroup. So I'm going to regroup that 2 and make that now a 1 in the tens place, and this 3 is now going to become 13. Well, I know that 13 minus 5 is going to leave me with 8, and now looking at the numbers left in the tens place, I know that 1 minus 1 is 0. So my next step is going to be to go ahead and place the decimal, and once again I'm going to place it in between the ones and the tenths place. So what I know is Warren still had $8.85 left for his shoe rentals. So the question is, once again, how many pairs of shoes did he rent for the $8.85? So what I'm going to do next is this. I'm going to set up a little table to help us keep this on track. Now, when I set the table up, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a little table, and I'm going to divide that table in half, and I'm going to let this side represent the number of shoes. So I'm going to go ahead and write the word shoes down. So this side represents shoes, and then the other side is going to represent the total cost. So I'm going to write down total. Now, I know, once again, that Warren is a member, so I'm going to focus on the member cost, which is $2.95. And what I'm going to have to do is, I'm going to have to continue adding my $2.95 together until I get to $8.85. And that will let me know how many pairs of shoes he rented. Now, for 1 pair of shoes, I know that my total cost is $2.95. Well, I can't stop yet because I'm trying to get to my $8.85. So I'm going to go ahead and add another row here, and this is going to represent 2 pairs of shoes. Well, when I add my $2.95 to another $2.95, that's going to take me up to $5.90. So for 2 pairs of shoes, it's $5.90. Well, I can't stop yet because I'm trying to get to my $8.85. So we're going to try this again. Let's try 3 pairs of shoes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this $5.90, and once again, we're going to add the $2.95 to that. Now, when I take $5.90 and add it to $2.95, it takes me to $8.85. And since I know that this $8.85 matches my $8.85 here, I know that I can stop. So what I see is, I see that Warren can purchase or can rent 3 pairs of shoes, and that's actually going to answer the question being asked. How many pairs of shoes did he rent? And he rented 3 pairs. And that will be the answer to our question. Now, let's take a look at question number 4. Question number 4 says, Natalie's group brought in pizzas, but is buying the drinks at the concession stand. How many medium sodas can Natalie's group buy with $20? Make a table to show your answer. And what I know is they give us this information. At the concession stand, medium sodas cost $1.25 and hot dogs cost $2.50. Now, our job is to figure out how many medium sodas Natalie's group can buy with $20. And it says to make a table to show your answer. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to go ahead and we're going to begin by making a table. So I'm going to draw a line right down the middle. And what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to let this side of our table represent the number of sodas. So I'm going to write down sodas at the top of my table over here. And then I'm going to let the other side represent the total amount of money. So I'm going to write down total on the other side. Now I'm going to start out with one soda. So I'm going to write down my 1. And I know that the cost of one soda, based on my information that's given, is $1.25. So for one soda, my total is going to be $1.25. Well, I can't stop there because I'm trying to get to that $20. So I'm going to continue on with my table. And I'm going to write down a 2 to represent now purchasing 2 sodas. Well, when I add 125 plus 125, that's going to take me to a total of $2.50. Well, once again, we can't stop yet because we're trying to reach that $20. So I'm going to go ahead and add another soda to my table. So I'm going to make this now 3 sodas. Well, when I add $2.50 plus $1.25, it's going to take me to $3.75. Now, once again, I have to continue because I'm trying to reach $20. So I'm going to go ahead once again and add another soda to our table. So I'm going to make this 4 sodas. Now, when I add $3.75 plus the $1.25, which is how much it costs for one medium soda, that's going to take me to $5. So I'm going to write down my $5. And I know once again that I have to continue because once again, we're trying to get to the $20. So I'm going to go ahead and add another soda. So here's 5 sodas. Now, when I add $5 plus $1.25, that's going to take me to $6.25. So I'm going to write that amount down. Here's my $6.25. Once again, I can't stop yet because we're trying to reach the 20. So I'm going to go ahead and add another soda, making this 6 sodas. And what I know is this. When I add $6.25 plus the $1.25 that it costs for one medium soda, that's going to take me to $7.50. So I'm going to write down my $7.50. Now once again, we have to continue because we're not at our $20 yet. So I'm going to add another soda to my table. And when I add $1.25 to my $7.50, that's going to take me to $8.75. Now once again, I'm going to go ahead and continue because we're trying to reach that $20. So I'm going to go ahead and add another soda, which makes this 8 sodas. And then my next step is going to be to add my $8.75 plus my $1.25. And when I add those two amounts together, that's going to take me to $10. Now, I'm going to stop my table here, and here's the reason. If I know that 8 sodas cost $10, then what I also know is this. Twice as many sodas would cost the $20. So if I take my 8 and multiply it by 2, so here's 8 times 2, that's going to take me to 16 sodas. And if I take my $10 and multiply that by 2, that's going to take me to my 20. So what I know is, I know that Natalie's group can buy 16 sodas with her $20, and we have used our table to help us answer that question. Now, let's take a look at question number 5. Question 5 says, Jack bought 2 medium sodas and 2 hot dogs. He paid with $20. What was his change? Now, once again, what I know is this. The question that I'm supposed to be answering is, what was his change? So that's our question to be answered. Now I also know that Jack bought 2 medium sodas and he also bought 2 hot dogs. So my first step is going to be to calculate the total cost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to the information given and I'm going to figure out how much each of these items cost. Well, I know that medium sodas cost $1.25 and I know that Jack bought 2 of those medium sodas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and write down $1, and we'll write this down, $1.25 plus another $1.25, because once again, Jack bought 2 medium sodas, and the medium sodas cost $1.25. Now I also know that Jack bought 2 hot dogs. Well, I know that the hot dogs cost $2.50. So to the first amounts that I have written down, I'm now going to add $2.50, which is the cost of 1 hot dog, and then another $2.50, which represents the cost of the 2 hot dogs. Now, in order to calculate the cost, we need to add those amounts together. So once again, we're adding $1.25 plus $1.25 plus $2.50 plus another $2.50. And when we add those amounts together, that takes us to $7.50. So I'm going to go ahead and write down $7.50. And that represents the total cost. Now, what I also know is this. I know that Jack paid with a $20 bill, and the question once again is, what was his change? So what I'm going to do next is this. I now have to calculate the change. So what I'm going to do next is, I'm going to take my $20 and I'm going to write down $20. So here's my $20. And from that, I'm going to subtract the $7.50, which was the cost. Now, when I subtract $7.50 from $20, I'm left with $12.50. So what I know is, I know that Jack's change was once again $12.50. And I found that by first of all calculating the total, and then I also had to calculate the change. And that change was $12.50. Now, let's take a look at question number 6. Question 6 says, how much would it cost to buy 3 medium sodas and 2 hot dogs? So what I know is this. I know that in this problem they're asking how much would it cost. So I'm looking for the total cost, and that's to buy 3 medium sodas and 2 hot dogs. So what I need to do is this. I need to use the information that's given up here to figure out, first of all, how much 3 medium sodas would be. So what I know is medium sodas cost $1.25. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go ahead and write down that $1.25, and I'm going to write that down 3 times to represent the 3 medium sodas. So there's $1.25 plus $1.25 plus $1.25. And once again, these 3 amounts represent the 3 medium sodas. Now, it also says that they want to know how much it would cost to also buy 2 hot dogs. Well, what I know is hot dogs cost $2.50. So to my amounts, I'm going to go ahead and add $2.50 plus another $2.50. And these 2 amounts represent the 2 hot dogs. Now, my last step is to calculate the total cost. So when I add those amounts together, representing once again the 3 medium sodas and the 2 hot dogs, my total amount turns out to be $8.75. And I can go ahead and stop here because the question says simply, how much would it cost? So we have our 3 medium sodas plus our 2 hot dogs, and once again our total cost turns out to be $8.75. Now, let's take a look at our homework questions for tonight. I would like you to complete question number 1 and question number 2, as well as numbers 3 through 6, found in your Go Math workbook on page 74. Now, don't forget, somewhere on your homework page I want you to let me know, do you feel like you're number 1, a novice, number 2, an apprentice, number 3, a practitioner, or number 4, an expert? Don't forget, your homework questions for tonight will be to complete question number 1 and question number 2, as well as numbers 3 through 6, found in your Go Math workbook on page 74. I hope you have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you at school tomorrow.